Good morning. Thank you. Good to see everybody. My name is Scott Heare. I get to be one of the pastors here, one of the preaching teachers, and very excited to be with you. As always feels like such a gift. If you are new with us this morning, welcome. We're so glad that you're here. Welcome to Sunset Ridge in the summer, which looks like people being on vacation and then coming back, and where did you go? And that's really fun. And also, Waria and Hawaiian shirts are encouraged. And if your wife or spouse says you shouldn't wear that ridiculous shirt, you can say, the Lord says that I should. Actually, don't say that because it's just me. But welcome to Be Relaxed and really enjoy the summer heat can get to us. But don't let that keep you from coming to church. It's such a beautiful time during the summer to be together. Excited to be with you. If there's anything that you need information-wise about this church, please ask me or any of the team members. I will say excitedly, we are building a whole process of membership and engagement and everything that comes with it to invite you into in the fall. But we've been slowly, prayerfully team building that. And we're very excited to roll that out for you here in the next couple of months for those of you who've been asking. And so we're excited about that. But let's begin this morning. So, happy Father's Day. Wow. I have to say, all right, because this is what happened. I laid y'all out. I said happy Mother's Day on Mother's Day. And do you know what y'all did? Happy Mother's Day. Y'all were so excited. What is happening right now? I am going to try again. Don't worry. Thank you, Kelly. Happy Father's Day. All right. Thank you very much. Oh, a clap. That's definitely for someone else's dad, but that's all right. The awkward clap, too. That's even better. So thank you very much. Good to see you. It's funny this week, I was thinking about a lot of different things, but one of the things I was thinking about is the imposter syndrome. Anybody know what the imposter syndrome is? Yeah. Some of us are like, yes, I know immediately what that is because I deal with that every single day. The imposter syndrome is the feeling that if people actually knew you or what you were kind of not able to do, they would know that you shouldn't have your job. Or they would know that you shouldn't be in the responsibility that you have. Or they would be a little saner. Like, here's an example. I was 25 years old, and I was the lead pastor of a British church. Okay? So I walk in, and they have a lot of questions to ask me about the way the church should go. And I'm sitting in this meeting trying to understand. They speak English, right? And I'm trying to understand what they're saying. And all I can think about is if they knew how little I knew about all of the questions that they were asking me, they would know they shouldn't ask me any of these questions. Like, I shouldn't even be here. And I'm, by the way, wearing a priest collar because that's the tradition in England. And so I'm thinking to myself, I am an imposter. I should not be here. What in the world? And I have had that experience over and over and over again. I'll tell you often right before I walk up here because of the week that I struggle with, because I'm just like everybody else. When I'm on the way up here, I'm like, there should be someone else elected. Like, I should not be the person, right? Coming up here. So anybody now that you know what the imposter syndrome is? Anybody know feel that in your life? Yes, okay, yeah, a lot of that, sure. And those of you that didn't raise your hand are feeling it, I'm excited for you. But the rest of us are struggling. One of the professors that I work with is one of these most brilliant Harvard, Oxford, Baylor kind of world of people. And we were talking about the imposter syndrome the other day because I feel that often now in that kind of academic world. Right? And so he and I, he's a great guy, we were talking, and he goes, imposter syndrome, yeah, boy, I'm familiar with that. I said, really? Like, if I showed you your resume and repeated back the podcasts that I've listened to you do, you're not an imposter, you're actually that guy. Like, what in the world? And he goes, I just feel like I'm a sham all the time. And if all the real academics knew who I was, they would not. And I'm like, whoa. And he goes, yeah, I had a PhD student come up to me one time and say, I'm having this imposter syndrome. And all I could say to him is, man, it would be nice if it was a syndrome. Like, he felt like a legitimate imposter. You ever feel that way? Me too. How is it that we can discover who we really are? How is it that we can walk into an identity that we've been called to if we're constantly concerned that we actually aren't equipped to be the thing that we're in place to do. And one of the most intimidating of all of the roles that I've ever played is of dad. It is no joke. There are so many times, in so many ways, that you are being asked to do something you've never even thought about before. And it's pretty intimidating stuff. This morning, we walk into a time when no doubt the disciples were having the imposter syndrome and being asked to do something that they had never thought about before. As we read, you'll question the decision of whether we should actually have read this on Father's Day. And there's, as you might imagine, a point in that too. So let's listen to the challenging words of Jesus on this day. Would you stand with me as we read together? Matthew 10, verses 24, begin at 24 to 39. We read together. A disciple is not above the teacher, nor a slave above the master. It is enough for the disciple to be like the teacher and the slave like the master. If they have called the master of the house Beelzebub, pause. It's just fun to say that. We never get to do. It's like twice. I'll tell you what that means here in a minute. Let's start at if they. If they have called the master of the house Beelzebub, how much more will they malign those of his household? So they have no fear of them. For nothing is covered up that will not be uncovered, and nothing secret that will not become known. What I say to you in the dark, tell in the light, and what you hear whispered, proclaim from the housetops. Do not fear those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul. Rather, fear the one who can destroy both soul and body in hell. That's intense. Are not two sparrows sold for a penny? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground apart from your Father. And even the hairs of your head are all counted. Grateful for that, just for the record. So do not be afraid. You are more valuable than many sparrows. Everyone, therefore, who acknowledges me before others, I also will acknowledge before my Father in heaven. But whoever denies me before others, I also will deny before my Father in heaven. Do not think that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I have not come to bring peace to the earth, but a sword. And here's the Father's Day message. For I have come to set a man against his, a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. Yikes. And one's foes will be members of one's own household. Whoever loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me, and whoever loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me, and whoever does not take up the cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Wow. Those who find their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake will find it. These are the very words of God. Please be seated. So yeah, easy, right? This one's fun. All kinds of division and laying on these heavy responsibilities and everything that comes with it. In some ways, maybe to simplify, for me at least, is to say that there's this moment here where Jesus is actually doing something extraordinary, because he's going from being the one that is essentially going to do all of the ministry to passing this on, as we've been talking about, to the disciples who will now walk right into the fullness of their calling and what they're equipped to be and to do. And so he's essentially telling them some basics about how to do that. Simple basics at first, and then challenging basics at the backside. The first thing he says is, a student is not greater than the teacher, or a servant or a slave is not greater than the master. What in the world? That's a really interesting thing to say. Why would Jesus be saying that? Well, one of the things that I think that I forget to do is, in the context, is to look and see what would the disciples have been thinking about when they heard that. And I think what they would have been thinking about is it would have moved them to remember all of the things they had been taught. A student, them, a disciple, is no greater than the teacher, him, the rabbi. What has the rabbi been doing? The rabbi has been teaching in such a way that it blows the minds of the greatest minds of the Jewish world. He silences them often. He raises people from the dead. He heals people that have been wounded for decades or more. He's been engaging in such a way that the disciples have what I like to call the disciple strut on when they walk into a place. Because Jesus walks into a place and you're following him in as one of the chosen disciples and you're like, yes, you're lucky we are here. You're welcome. You're welcome. Also, yes, I'll be sitting right over here with Jesus. Thank you. You can decide how you feel about that. But whatever you're going to throw at him, it's going to be fun to watch what he does with that. Except for that one time when they decided to throw stones at him. But he even walked out of that. Walked straight out. How amazing, how overwhelming would it have been to be a disciple? And what you're really doing is you're waiting for Jesus to kind of rise up and finalize the whole thing. And what Jesus does is he turns around like a great coach at halftime and he's like, okay, guys, here's what's going to happen next. Opportunity is now in your hands. The whole first half has been me. And now the whole second half is you. Everything that you have seen me do in every instance, now you will be empowered to do and for generations beyond. You don't have to do anything more than I've done. In fact, it'll be greater because you're doing it, but you'll only be doing it because I've shown you how. And it's almost like he could give a list. Do you know what to do when you see a woman in pain? Yes, Lord. Do you know how to handle the scripture in such a way that those that could come at you would have more answers than questions as they left, and then maybe more questions than answers as they thought about it? Do you know how to do that? Yes. Do you know how to begin to transform the world by loving so deeply that the systems around you begin to erupt and revolt because they can tell that you're actually going to turn the world right side up? One human being, one room, one organization, one way of life at a time. Do you know how to do that? The disciples quietly, with an imposter syndrome that must have been overwhelming, yes, we do what you do. I wish I was as good at it as Jesus. I know that sounds goofy, right? But as a dad, as a parent, as a leader, as a disciple maker, this is what we do. Here's the terrifying reality. Human beings are made to mimic. That's how we learn stuff. In fact, it was wild. Last night we were at King William's. They have a gazebo there. Anybody know what I'm talking about? There's a nice little gazebo there. Okay. So there was a performance by some starving students, including Ethan Heare of Romeo and Juliet. And so Kathy and I were mosquito food for a few hours and watched this. They did a beautiful job, of course, and everybody was great, and it was really fun kind of time down there and everything that came with it. And he was Friar Tuck. Come on. It was kind of awesome. But I was like, you're clergy. You know how to do this. And so we were doing all these kinds of things. But at the end of the show, it was dark. They had one light on, and they've done all the bowing and all. Yay, and it's parents because as soon as it's over, everybody stands up. That was the most amazing thing I've ever seen, and it was great. And but then there's this moment of pause, and Ethan steps forward in front of all the rest of them. And he says, if I could just have your attention just for a second, so grateful that you guys are here. And he starts talking in this way and moving his hands around, and Kathy's punching me, and I'm like, I see it, it's freaking me out too. And he thanks everybody, gives flowers to the director, and does all that kind of stuff. And then he goes, thank y'all for being here. I'm dying laughing. I'm like, oh gosh, I didn't even mean it, but he's picked up mannerisms and tones and all this kind of stuff. You see it, right, in your kids? You see that when that happens? I just wish I was as good at it as Jesus. Because I also see it when my kids are in traffic. I see it when they say comments about the news. or when they fight with each other, or when they talk back to their mom. That one's humiliating. When your kids say what you may have said in an argument that they overheard to their mother. Jesus says there's a lot of different failures in the world, but I'm going to show you how to do it right. And dads, we want to do that. We don't want to have that stuff. I know, you know, we don't. And the invitation is to say, we may have been taught a lot of things, and a lot of them might be good, but a lot of them might be broken too. And that over time, our commitment to Jesus becomes the thing that allows us to become more than we could have been in any other way. And so he says, follow me, walk in my footsteps. And we do. He also does this thing where he says, the whole Beelzebub thing, that's wild, right? Well, that's only this, just to kind of point that out. There's a whole group of the Pharisees that have decided that all of the miracles that Jesus is doing, he's doing in the power of Beelzebub. Beelzebub is a word that's, kind of means the devil generally in culture, but it directly translates as the Lord of the Flies, or what flies land on, is another way to think about it. And so it's Beelzebub, the Lord of all that's gross, the Lord of all that's rotten, and everything that kind of comes with that. And he's essentially saying, look, these guys have said about me that I come from this power. They're going to say the same thing about you. And that's okay. And this is the second thing that Jesus says about all of us. It's my favorite thing. It's so hard not to just think about her the whole time. Do you ever wonder that curiosity and wonder may be the greatest spiritual gifts? And that a space for both is probably the safest place? You ever wonder what she's going to become? What the memories that she'll have? Not to mention that your communion just got twice blessed. And so fathers are hopefully the kind of people that create safety for all of that. To find ways to become more. And so Beelzebub is not the power that we come by, but there'll be a challenge of it. Because here's the thing, friends. When we challenge the systems of the world, when we do, they push back. It's just the way that it works. And so what we do is it'll say like, they're this, they're that, and those kind of things. Like, no, we're only rising up in love. You can imagine that if people were moving out in love and political sides would say it's one thing or the other. But that would just be untrue. It would just be the love of God that would be motivating. Powerful stuff. But here's what's interesting for me, and this really gets to it one way or the other, and that's this. Right here at the very end, there's just this really big list of all the things that we're responsible for. And if you're a dad, and honestly, we don't talk a lot about this. A lot of men in particular are kind of ostracized to the edges of things because especially us tend to be those that are a little bit of a target for the power structures and all these other kinds of things. And some of those things are quite true over time. But the truth is, by oversteering that, we have taken away from not only a men's responsibility, but from their possibility. And recreating the kind of freedom to be strong men is an extraordinarily important part of the church's role, of Jesus' life, and of our church. It's a powerful thing to begin to think about men who deeply love God, aligning for his purpose, loving their families, and leading their church in their ways. These are true things. They're beautiful things. And I want to do them too. But I remember there's a guy named Jay Huffman in Austin. I went to a men's ministry. If you've ever been to a men's ministry, they're really fun most of the time. But Jay got up there in front of this men's ministry, and there's like 400 of us or whatever it is, and he said, hey, I just want you to know, you guys, I don't really care about your families. Oh, I don't care about your kids. I don't care about any of that stuff. God's asked me to care about one thing and one thing only, and that's you. And very few people only care about you. Most of the time, everyone around you is asking you for something. It's not so different than motherhood. It's just different and a different kind of flavor. But you're being asked all the time. Here's what I want to do. I want to give to you. I want to be there for you. I want to serve you. I want to support you. And I have to be honest, I hadn't heard anybody say that to me in decades. And it just was like somebody is here for me? That's wild. And it brings me to this moment where in the scripture, there's this part where all these different responsibilities are piling down on us. You have to believe in me in this way. You have to do this. You have to go out. Don't do this, and all this other kind of stuff. And all of those responsibilities, especially, and maybe I'm just talking to the guys right now, just for a minute, if you'll just be patient with me. I'm so sorry to do that and exclude folks. But here's the thing. I think sometimes we get so piled up with responsibilities that we just can't hear anything anymore. We're just barely holding on and doing our best to make it. And then when we hear all this religious stuff, we're just like, oh, it's really nice, but I can't actually pull all of that off. I don't even know how to do it. And adding more responsibility to me right now, or adding more stuff to my calendar, is not a thing that I can handle. I want to handle it. I know that I should handle it. I don't know, my life would be better. I get it. I can't hear you. I can't hear you say do more stuff. So I won't. I'll ask you to consider one thing. Just one. In fact, to ignore all these other things because they come from this one thing. And it's mystical and it's weird. And it will feel uncomfortable and it'll transform your life. And it's 2 words, and it's going to sound really, really churchy and plastic and preachery, and I just can barely figure out how to say it. I want to say it a different way, and I just can't. And it's what the disciples watched Jesus do most. Every day, with every breath, in the face of everything. If there was one thing that Jesus' life said strongest and loudest to those men and women, it was this: love God. Love him. Just love God. Find ways to do it. Not know about God, know about the Bible, do the right things. Great, those are all nice things. But actually to love God, to be vulnerable in our hearts to the creator of the universe, to be tender to the moment, to be aware of the weight of the power of our families, of nature, of a new day. To begin with gratefulness and slowly, over time, have hearts that love God more than anything else. See, what happens to us is that we begin to divide our hearts up into all kinds of different things. We love our jobs, great. But if we love them more than God, then we make them God. We love our wives, great. But if we love them more than God, we make them God. We love our children, great. But if we love them more than God, we make them God, and our jobs, our wives, and our children will fail us as God. They will. And they just don't need the pressure. But if we love God, just that, if we find a way to explore and wonder and fight and argue and battle and explore and do all the kinds of adventurous things that I think that we're called and made to do, then the next thing you know, when we stand in front and we're worshiping with all we've got, we're loving God so deeply. You watch your life follow you like a wake of joy and power. You watch your children radiate because it'll flow through you and into them. And regardless of the storms of the life that they find themselves in, they will find that the God that loves them will carry them through, and the hope and the joy of understanding what it means to be in this world will rest upon them like a foundation that is eternal and profound. That they can walk out into the world with every hope that we want for them to have in us, but without all of the expectations that we thought they were extensions of us. They were always gifts. They were always gifts. And like Jesus, we are called to say to them at some point, go. We were guests in my oldest's house Friday night. Never done that before. When we went into the bedroom, my daughter-in-law had little towels. There was a decanter of water and glasses. I was like, man, he married up. I was under his care. It was his home. His wife. Their life. He loves God deeply. I pray he got a little from me. I promise, if you'll find yourself in a place to love God as deeply as you can, you'll sleep like a baby in your son's house. Will you pray with me? Eternal God, help us to think generationally, to love wildly, to receive daily, and to hope always. Help us to learn to love you more than anything else. In Jesus' holy and precious name.